Well, g'day, folks. Today we're joined by Guy Leech. He's a world-class Ironman and surf ski champion as well. 7 times he won the Uncle Toby Super Series back in the day. 2 times he was a Coolangatta Gold champion. He's been saving lives in the water for many years. Now he's saving lives out of the water as the CEO and founder of Heart 180. Let's find out more about that, plus much more on Legends with Bevo.
Welcome to Legends with Bevo. Thanks to the Holdy, Coopers, Anytime Fitness Glenelg, and Paradise Mazda. And now, here's your host, Bevo.
Guy Leech, great to have you on Legends with Bevo. Now, as I mentioned before, you're the CEO and founder of Heart 180, which is a very important program. Unfortunately, you started this because of a loss with a close friend of yours. Tell us more about it, mate.
Yeah, so life's a funny thing. I had a journey through swimming and Ironman and fitness businesses over the years, and it was sort of 4 years ago that like my sort of on a given day changed my journey of what I was doing. And so for the past 18 years, I've been taking training groups around Sydney, around the northern beaches, and on this given morning was no different to any other day where we go out and paddle and do sort of exercises on the beach and all that sort of thing. And we had 25 predominantly blokes there doing this session. And at the back end of the session, one of my best mates who was training in that group suffered a sudden cardiac arrest and dropped. And as it turned out, I ended up on his chest trying to bring him back doing resuscitation. We rang triple O. Went through the whole process like I did when I was in the surf club many years ago, trying to save people's lives down the beach. And unbeknownst to me, I needed a defibrillator to bring him back to kickstart his heart over, which I didn't know, and he didn't make it. So my journey with a business called Heart 180 basically was born out of losing one of my best mates and learning all about what could have been had I been educated to the fact, and that was that sudden cardiac arrest is the biggest killer in Australia. It kills nearly 100 people today. It will get a kid under the age of 10, teenagers, fit people, right through to the elderly. And it's an electrical issue with the heart, which is what my mate Chucky had. And pumping the chest and ringing triple O isn't enough. You need to have a defib on hand. You need to be able to get the pads on the patient. You need to have the defib do its thing and put a shock through the body. And that shock through the body, if you can get those pads on the patient quick enough, most times will kickstart the heart over and the person comes back to life. So for me, it's been, it's been a tragedy that sort of changed the course of what I do. And mate, I do that full time now. So I educate people to what I'm telling you right now. And I distribute defibrillators all around Australia. We do that every day. We've got a team that cover the whole country. And, most importantly, we save lives, which is really important.
Yeah, wonderful. Again, my condolences go out to you for what happened with your friend, mate. But well done on everything you're doing with Heart 180, because like I said, it's such an important thing going forward. And how do people get involved in this, Guy? And what can we do here in South Australia to get these around all the clubs, and not just sporting clubs, just everywhere really, workplaces,
Yeah, well, look, I think the first thing is, from my point of view, is trying to educate people. So doing podcasts like this one with you is really important. I think from what I've seen the last 4 years, people just don't know the situation. They don't understand that the biggest killer in this country has a solution, and the solution is a defibrillator. It costs around $2,000, and it's the difference between life and death. And so getting those facts out there firstly is really important, and then off the back of that, letting people know that these things are simple to use. With an online training course that we provide with a device, you can save your mate's life, save your family member's life, whatever it is. And, that's the first thing. And then off the back of that, you just go to my website, which is heart180.com.au. All the information's there. You can contact me or one of the team members, and you can get a defib that suits you really, really quickly and easily. So, that's as simple as what it is. And when you sort of say, clubs and gyms and the like, yeah, they all need them. And we sell to people in homes, people that have boats, caravans, to schools, gyms, local businesses, you name it. And, the success rate of survival on the streets of Australia for this is around 6%. So if you have a cardiac arrest, someone rings 000, then your survival rate's around 6%. Yeah. Where defibs were invented back in Seattle 70 years ago, because of the education programs that they've run and the amount of defibs that are out there in the community, the survival rate over in Seattle is 65%. So it's my goal to make sure there's enough defibs out there in Australia so that if someone suffers a cardiac arrest, then we have a defib within 180 seconds of that individual. And if that's the case, and they get the pads on the patient within 180 seconds, then the patient's got up to 90% chance of survival. So, you ring 000, it's 6%. But if you've got a device, you get them on the patient, up to 90% chance of living. So it's a massive undertaking. We're in a big country here. There's a big, vast population that we've got. But you know what? That's the goal. And, when you start talking about nearly 100 people today losing their life, then, it's a good cause. It's one that I hope the rest of the country embraces, and we need to get a lot more of these devices out there.
Yeah, well done. And hopefully, I'll certainly be sharing this around, and hopefully we can spread the word and get it out there as much as we can, Guy, because like I said, it's such an important thing you're doing. So, well done. And in terms of COVID-19, I saw on your Instagram the other day, mate, you've been keeping busy doing some surf skiing. What else have you been up to?
Yeah, look, I do. I've got a good lifestyle around the northern beaches in Sydney where I live. We paddle. We paddle most days of the week, so that's sort of my predominant sort of fitness activity that I do. And the groups that I've got, keep it interesting and keeps me motivated. But I love my golf as well. I sort of come from that sporting background and high performance that I'm used to, and trying to get better and the like. And I can't, I suppose, replicate the running and the swimming and the paddling like I was 25 years ago. I'm still in good nick, and still I'd like to think I still go pretty quickly in what I do. But golf's sort of taken over that level of being able to measure myself against a handicap, and be able to go out and practice and put that to the test. So I do like that. I like the competitive side of having something to aim at. So I do try to get out as much as I can and hit balls and practice. And I've got a good bunch of friends that I get to compete against. So that's fun. And mate, between that and the family and the defibs, it takes up most of my week. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
And your journey with surf lifesaving, you've always enjoyed saving people's lives, and then you got into the Uncle Toby Super Series and had some great battles with Trevor Hendy over the years. And I was a huge fan growing up, mate. I loved it so much. Talk us through your journey and how you got into doing the Uncle Toby Super Series.
Mate, I was a swimmer, and I was trying to go to the Olympics when I was a kid, and at different stages of from 9 years of age to 17, I was ranked number one in the country for my age in a few events, and I represented Australia as an age group swimmer. Missed the Olympics when I was 16 in a couple of events, just narrowly, and then had that 4-year sort of wait to the next Olympic Games when I was 20, which was probably going to be around where I was going to peak. But funny enough, I was at home one evening watching television after dinner, and mate, a Kellogg's Nutrigrain ad popped up, and Grant Kenny was there, doing his thing in the TV commercial, and I got super excited about that. And mate, I was just about to turn 17 when that happened, and I joined the local surf club at Manly, in Sydney. And then before you know it, there was a race popped up, a poster popped up at the surf club promoting this race called the Coolangatta Gold. It was all about a movie, and there was $20,000 in gold on first place. And I rocked up to the Gold Coast, having done sort of 9 months of training for that event as an 18-year-old. Won the race. It got huge publicity, this thing. Picked up 20 grand's worth of gold. And, mate, before you knew it, I was competing on a national series around the country, racing Grant Kenny, racing the guy that I saw on television just over a year earlier. And, mate, the rest was history. And that was the next 15 years of my life. And, the likes of the Mercer brothers and Trevor Hendy and Guy Andrews and Craig Riddington all popped up during those times, Guy Andrews as well, and, a bunch of other athletes. And, mate, they were just some of the best years of my life. And, it was interesting in that I was doing the thing that I loved the most and doing it as a living and doing it as something that you would never thought when you were at school that could be your job. And, they were sort of amazing times. And, to think back now on a sport that doesn't get any profile, is not on television now, you wouldn't know who the names are in that sport compared to back in my day. I'm very, very fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time, won the first ever professional Ironman race and got the best of it. So, they were good times. They really were.
And in terms of, you competed in world Ironmans and world surf skis and this sort of thing. How did you used to overcome that mental battle? Because, I've done, nothing compared to what you've done. Like I've done Cedar Bays, which is 12 Ks, and you sort of get to those last couple of Ks and your body's just aching, but you just push through it because you want to beat your personal best and, do whatever you can. But how did you sort of overcome those pain barriers, Guy?
Mate, there's, I think the first thing is that when you're a professional athlete and you are at the highest level of what you do and you're trying to win and you're trying to be the best in the world, it's a different animal compared to other people. So the first thing is that you're dealing with the elite of the elite. And at that level, everyone's doing lots of training. Everyone's talented at what they do. Everyone wants to win to a level, to a degree. And, mate, then you get those 1% in there that separate the great, compared to the greatest. And so, at that sort of, when you're dealing at that sort of point, that will to win is just a little bit greater in those amazing athletes that you find. And they're the ones that can lift that little bit more under pressure, and they can make the right decisions at the right time more often than the rest of the field. So, it's interesting because, I get asked this question a lot. And then when you're younger and you're in the thick of it, you don't really think about sort of that that sort of trying to work out what it is. You're just doing what you're doing. But for me, I was willing to go and, when you start talking about uncomfortableness and hurting in a race and what the difference is, right? There was never a moment during my career at that time where pain came into questioning the amount of pain you were going through. There was never a question of, I need to sort of slow down because it hurts, like the average person. And I think that's because when you're dealing at that level, you love what you do that much and it's your job, and you're just willing to go and do what you need to do to try to put your best performance in. So I can, if you said to me now, oh, look, we're going to go do a fun run and do a bit of training for it, and it's going to be a bit of a laugh, and you and I do 2 months of training and we line up, well, mate, it's a different situation now, because I don't care about it as much. And do I want to beat you? Yeah, I want to beat you, but will I go and try race myself into hospital, which I've done in races in the past? No, I'll back off. So you're dealing with a different animal. You really are. Yeah.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Mate, I mentioned before that as a kid I used to love the Young Toby Super Series. I want to tell you about a funny story. So I was actually, I was Team Guy Leech, my brother was Team Trevor Hendy, and this is a true story. We used to actually do races. We had a pool, and we'd actually do a race, me and my brother. So we'd have the swim, we'd have the run, which was a run around the block. And this is the best part. We had inflatable bananas, which were the board leg. We'd actually do races competing against each other. Good times. But no,
But yeah, the funny thing is, I've had a number of interviews over the years, and no joke, what you've said has been exactly what I've been told. In that, I had a brother or my mate down the road, mate. I was Team Leechy and he was Team Hendy, and mate, we used to go at it. And what I always used to say, which I'll say to you, is, mate, I hope you beat your brother more often than he beat you.
Yeah. Well, he used to cheat a bit. Like, he'd win, but he'd do dodgies and cut a corner somewhere or something like that. So yeah, he didn't want to lose, my brother. Any sport would play, he'd always try and win whatever way he could. So even with board games, it's just one of those competitive things. But no, good times. Hey,
they were funny times because when we used to rock down to the beach on those big races where you'd be at Bondi and it was school holidays, or down at Portsea in Victoria, and you had 25,000 people or more on the beach on a summer's day, and the race was there and it was promoted, and you had helicopters filming in the air and you had the cameras on. It was on live on television on Channel 10. Now, you'd rock down to the beach and there'd be like this camp of 300 people that all had Trevor Hendy tops on, and written in zinc on their their tops or whatever, and you had this Leechy fan base over there, and you'd rock down the beach and it was like you're thinking, mate, can you believe this is what actually happening? So yeah, they were unbelievable times, and I feel sorry for the athletes now that in my sport that just didn't get that opportunity to live through that, because unless you saw it, unless you witnessed it like you did, you tell these stories and people don't believe you. Don't realize the hype and just that emotion that was involved back in those days, with just how big it was and how electric it was to rock down to a given beach like Glenelg Beach in Adelaide, and you had 15,000, 20,000 people lining that boardwalk there and on the sand watching us race. It was just, they were good times.
Yeah, what do you think's happened? Actually, it's funny you mention that, because my mother-in-law actually wants to know, Guy, what's happened in terms of why it's not on TV anymore, because it is a real shame.
Mate, sport comes down to money, and there's a difference between NRL, the AFL, and your smaller sports, because they can justify TV rights and get money for what station they're on, and then they take that money and they can use that as a business to promote what they're doing in the like. The difference between that and other sports like your netballs and your Ironman back in the day was, mate, you needed corporate Australia to write the check to get you on television. So it was a completely different type of business model. So you needed an Uncle Toby's to say, mate, we're going to throw our marketing dollars into Ironman because we want to sell more product on the shelf in Coles and Woolworths, and we're going to use them as the vehicle to go and do that. So we'll write a check for $3 million or whatever it was, and that $3 million would then go and pay for time on television to go and put the cameras there and the production company and pay the athletes and all the rest of it and have the prize money there to then go and leverage what they were doing, which got us on television. And then notwithstanding, then Uncle Toby's would then say, mate, we'll take Guy Leech and we'll make him the porridge guy, and we'll use him on the front, the front of the packs to promote selling porridge, and we'll use Trevor Hendy to be the Vitabrits guy to sell Vitabrits in the stores. And so it was a full program that ran that made me more famous because I was on television, on TV commercials, which then got you watching it because it was part of that whole promotion. So, mate, that ended when Uncle Toby's, after 20 years involvement, said, we're not going to write that check anymore. We're going to put our marketing dollars into something else. And so because of that, then, no one else fronted up. And the problem back then was that when Grant Kenny retired, when I retired and Trevor retired, mate, they were the three biggest names in the sport at the time. And there wasn't this next guard coming in with the same massive profile that we had, which was the first thing. The second thing was that Uncle Toby said, we'll go a different direction now. And because they did such a good job, as you said, what's the Uncle Toby series? Well, it wasn't the Ironman series promoted by Uncle Toby's. You called it by Uncle Toby's. Mate, they were that good at the marketing of what they did. What other company was going to come in and chuck $3 million into a series that you called the Uncle Toby series? It was a generic name. They literally were that good at what they did that it was done and buried. So they tried to go and get those dollars back in through other companies. And other companies said, well, it's going to take us 10 years to wash off the Uncle Toby's name to get our name front and center on that product.
And that's sort of your answer, yeah. Yeah. Had a couple of other questions as well. One of my friends, Kim Allen, asked you, Guy, in terms of whether you're still involved in the sport and mentoring athletes at all.
Yeah, so I do come in now and then and help out. I don't have like a training group of athletes that I work with, but notwithstanding, I will come in and mentor a young guy or girl that's involved in the sport. When I'm interstate, one of the coaches who I know that I probably raced against, like the likes of Darren Mercer or Phil Clayton or those sort of guys, I'll come in and go and do a talk to their squad and give input and feedback into what they're doing. I talk to the coaches, regularly and give my 2 bobs worth into, how they do it without sort of lecturing, I suppose. So I'm still involved in that part of the whole thing. I take an interest in the sport and, man, I love the sport. It was been such a big part of my life. And, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now with you and being able to promote the defib side of what I do now if it wasn't for Ironman and what it gave me. So I'm very thankful for the sport. I'm very thankful for just the amount of, rewards I've got from it, which, mate, I still get today. So I'm always happy to help. And, mate, if someone asks for help, then I'm always happy to go and jump on board. And
Ryan Bridges, who's actually from Galway, and you guys raced at Galway back in the day, because he's also a huge fan of the Unfocus Super Series. And he asked what it was like being involved in the big surf like Portsea and over there in New Zealand. I think it was Piha. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, Piha, yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, look, it's, the peanut, a little dog, mate, going off. I've got solar paneling going on the roof right now. There's work going on around us. Look, I don't think anyone in our sport, right, like the guys and girls that did it, as far as the ocean went, were the best of what they did. If you wanted to swim out through 15-foot surf and get rescued, mate, you wanted the crew that did our sport to be the ones that were going to get you, because they get to you quicker. And, mate, you had the best chance of getting saved. So, notwithstanding going to Portsea or PR when it was like the size of, 5-7-story buildings on those given days, mate, the athletes that went out to paddle a board out, swim out, and take a surf ski and get it out were the best of what they did. But in saying that, mate, having lined up for those races, you were nervy about what you had to go and do. Because there was 2 parts to those days that you faced. One was that you were trying to win, and you were trying to get around the course, which was, 16 kilometres worth of going in and out through the surf or whatever it was on that day over 2 hours. It was filmed that you saw on television. You were trying to win, right? And you were trying to win because there was prize money and you're competitive and it's the series and you want to be the best. But then the other part of you is like, I don't need an 18-kilogram surf ski that one of the boys in front of me who loses their ski that gets washed back in on the white water that's 15 foot high hitting me because I might die, And so you're in 2 minds. It's different to when I rock down the beach at Manly and the surf's 2 to 3 foot. And, I'm going out there and, mate, there is no regard whatsoever for 2, 3, 4, or 5 foot surf that's going to hurt me, right? Other than I don't want to make a mistake and lose my craft because I want to win. When the surf gets as big as what it did at Portsea and PR, on those given days, mate, there's an element of thinking, I need to protect my life in some ways, but I also need to go really fast as well. So you've got this sort of this internal battle going on. So you're a little bit nervy about it, but yeah. So, but the ones going out that were doing it were the best of what they were doing. So you hedged your bets and knew that you were going to be reasonably safe because of it.
And finally, 3 famous people you'd like to go and have dinner with, Guy. Who would they be?
But I always had a liking to Michael Jordan, and we've just had that Netflix series on him and the Chicago Bulls. I had a chance to play golf with him years ago. My lawyer at the time was the lawyer for the Packers, and they were doing a golf, building a golf course overseas that the Shark Greg Norman was involved in, and Michael Jordan was for some reason was part of that, and so I got rung up by my lawyer saying, Leechy, if you can get over to Florida in 2 weeks' time, mate, I've lined up a game of golf for you with Michael Jordan, mate, the Shark, and Jamie Packer.
Oh.
And so I'm like, and it was right during the Ironman series, and it was ironic that that week that game fell on the weekend that wasn't a race, and there were races each day, each week in between. So I said, I'm in. I'll get a flight. I'll get over to Florida because I wanted to play golf with Michael Jordan, right? And I had the Shark there as well, and I knew Jamie anyway, so it was all nice and neat. And you wouldn't believe it, right? Mate, the week of us going over there, Greg Norman was ranked number 1 in the world at the time, on the golf rankings, and he was playing the tournament over in the States, and he had a shot where the ball was in the rough. It was right next to sort of this tree where he was hitting the shot. He had a shot. He hit the ball, and underneath the ball was like a root from the tree that you couldn't see properly. And he jammed his club into that, and it sprained his wrist. And mate, he got injured and was out for like a month. He couldn't play, so the game got cancelled.
Oh no!
I was just like, my goodness, I couldn't. So anyway, I'd like Jordan there. That would be good fun. But I'd love to chat to Nelson Mandela just on his life, because he just what he went through. It would be fascinating to meet him. One of my mates has met him and reckons he's just a good bloke. He's got good stories and good insight. So I'd like to meet him. And I wouldn't mind. Years ago when Tiger Woods first turned professional, I went to dinner with Tiger in Sydney because my management group was the same group that managed him. So I went to dinner with him and had a few beers, and he was sort of just starting off his career, and as we know, he could write 10 books on Tiger with all the ups and downs and the like of what's going on. So I wouldn't mind catching up with him again and shooting the breeze. So mate, that'd be the 3. Yeah.
No, you've done well. I can agree with those for sure. Well, Guy Leech, mate, well done on everything you've done in your career so far, and also Heart 180. As I mentioned earlier, I'll definitely get that out there and give as much promotion as we can for such a very important program you're involved in. Thanks for taking the time to have a chat. This has been an absolute blast, and we'll hopefully speak again soon, mate.
Thanks, Bevo, mate. It's just good to know that you were on Team Leechy back in the day, mate, around the swimming pool.
Absolutely.
Well done, mate. Well done.
As always, mate. Take care. Speak to you soon.
All right, buddy. Thank you, mate. Bye.
Bye.